Welcome, dear fellow addicts, and today we're going to talk about a pretty hot topic in the modern hookah industry, namely the electric hookah. I'm sure you've seen plenty of reviews already about the electric hookahs, electric heads, such as Enso, such as E-hookah, other products, but there hasn't been much on the side-by-side comparison between a electric hookah and a regular hookah. So this video is going to be a little less of an unboxing and review and more of an actual side-by-side test with the regular hookah that I use on a daily for myself. So without further ado, let's introduce our first apparatus, which is the Enso. As you probably realized by now, one of the biggest kind of announcements. Not recently, it's been almost half a year since it came out, if not longer. I got to use it for a couple of months already, so it's not like an unboxing first impression. It's more of me actually playing around with it and arriving to some conclusions and finally sharing them. And before we just jump into this whole thing, I just want to give a huge shout out to everyone who's trying to be innovative in this hookah industry, who's trying to come up with new things, who's working on the electric hookahs, on all this cool new things, because maybe this specific product doesn't work, but it's thanks to those people who are not afraid to come up with something new and offer it to the market. We're actually advancing as an industry, as a community. I'm going to start with the box. Usually I don't care much for unboxing, but this one is just stunning. Just look at this. Look at all the art, the design, the little like Japanese inspired mountain, sun, you know, some birds in the background, and the little wave patterns on the sides of the box, and just the way it opens. It's like, wow. I don't know, I loved it. I usually throw boxes away, but with this one I had to leave it as a display item. I couldn't get rid of it. Enough with the box, let's just talk about the hookah, and I'll start with the most basic thing, the design, and I think they nailed it. One of the few things they nailed is the design, because first of all, thank God they didn't put any screens in there, because it seems like every single piece of technology that's coming out these days must have a bunch of screens. Like everything in our world is turning into an iPad, right? We don't need that. A hookah doesn't need a bunch of screens. What it needs is temperature control, which also functions as a button to turn it on and off and switch between different modes. And a little LED stripe that you will see how it works. It shows the battery level, it shows the temperature, a few other things, but I'll explain it as we move forward. Just design and material wise, it looks and feels expensive when you touch it. You kind of, this like vegan leather thing, the plastic components, some metal components, they just feel good to touch. One major flaw is, as you all probably noticed, right? Like, what the hell is this, guys? Like, the handle that's supposed to carry your $500 investment is not as sturdy as I would like, because it comes off so easily, as you've just seen at the beginning of the video. So before we actually pack it and smoke it, let's just quickly go over what you find in the box and how this thing works, kind of put it apart and show you. So the battery, one battery, and a charger, but I mean, it's just a regular Type-C charger. The nice thing about the battery, you can charge it separately, but it's also kind of plug in and use. So if you have a low battery, you can just throw it into the hookah, plug the charger into the hookah, and still be able to use it. This little bowl, the ceramic, I don't know, it's pretty small, but doesn't look too sturdy, but does the job. Now, with the actual hookah, the hose is pretty small and compact. I mean, everything about this hookah is about like mobility and being compact. The top kind of lid comes off, and that's where you put the actual bowl with the tobacco. The lid has like little openings in it for you to be able to draw the air, because I mean, obviously, if it closed completely, you wouldn't be able to smoke it. Also, at the bottom, we have our base. It's tiny. There's barely any water in there. It's like half a glass of water. I don't know, like compared to like a normal hookah that we're used to. The little part of the shaft comes off. The nice thing they added is the splash guard right, that goes on top of this thing and prevents, because everything is so small, you'll obviously be getting splashes coming into the hose, so this actually helps. And the first time seeing this, the way they implemented the diffuser is you kind of rotate it like this. You have the holes and the diffuser, and now you're back to a regular draw, right, like this. And now I'm just gonna jump in and introduce the kind of the second participant of our test, of our comparison. It's the good old Bomber hookah. This is sort of my daily driver, right? The Russian classic. I love it. I use it for my daily hookah, and it works great, and has this little pretty design on the ashtray. And that's about it. Cool. It looks like we're almost ready to go. The hookah is heating up. And I know you probably heard the little sound. And this LED strip is going to be jumping, and when it reaches the top, it means the hookah is ready, and it's going to make a little sound that we will hear on the camera, hopefully. While we're waiting, let's talk about what I used for testing today. I wanted to do something very common sense, very simple. Something like Pinkman, you know, for must-have, but I didn't have it, so I had this version of Pinkman from Banger Tobacco. It's called Sexy. It's grapefruit, strawberry, and raspberry, which is basically like a classic sweet and sour. For the Enso, I just did this. For my regular hookah, I did about 70% of this and about 30% of Bonche pomegranate. I kind of really just wanted to add a little bit of, you know, like volume, I guess, with the cigar leaf to this mix. I mean, it's two flavors, can't really call it a mix, but this pomegranate from Bonche, I really like it. I'm a big fan of pomegranate flavor. This one has both like the juiciness of the pomegranate, which you feel when you just bite it, and also like when you later start chewing on the little seeds, the tartness, I don't know, the bitterness, it also kind of plays there. So I really like how it plays out. It's ready. The cigar leaf, like the pomegranate flavor, still needs a few more puffs to kind of, a few more minutes probably to catch up. I think it's probably getting enough heat already, so I'll just make a little pyramid here with the coals. So we talked about, that was the sound, which means the Enso is now ready. So I guess I will just give Enso a try. You can probably see it in my face. It's not quite what I want. It feels much stronger than regular hookah, but I'm about to explain why. So before we dive into the taste, let's just talk a little bit about the heating up process. It kind of took a similar amount of time for both bowls to heat up, kind of around 5 minutes. Oh, I love it. I'm feeling a little bit of a pomegranate here. It really adds to the whole mix. Anyways, obviously this one is in general much easier to prepare because you just throw in the tobacco in this little capsule ball, I don't know, little coffee capsule, and just press a button and it will be ready to go. Now for the flavor. The theory is sort of that since there's no coals here, this is more true to taste, true to description. You're not tasting coals, you're just tasting the tobacco. In practice, when I smoke Enso, it doesn't taste well. I don't feel like I'm tasting more of the tobacco, but there's a bit of a weird, I don't know what's the word, background scent to the smoke I'm inhaling. It just doesn't feel well in my lungs. And that's not just me. I had a lot of other people in the industry kind of try this, and they are also kind of a little weirded out by the taste of Enso. I'm not gonna say it's bad, but it's definitely not as enjoyable as a regular hookah. Another very important aspect of Enso is the draw. It's so restricted. Like if you're used to like modern hookah, like Alpha Hookah, El Bomber, other brands, they all have a pretty open draw. For this one, it's basically like drinking through a straw. This also makes it feel much stronger. And yeah, again, like as I'm smoking it and kind of going more and more along the session, I feel like the tobacco opens up much better in a regular hookah than in the electric hookah. The smoke from this one, even I'm on a very low temperature setting, but it feels really hot, and it has this unpleasant heaviness. Also, it doesn't come with an improved flavor definition. I know people personally who have Enso almost as a daily hookah for them, and they love it. But for me, as I said, yeah, I just don't get it. The regular hookah still smokes so much better to me, and I can feel so many more nuances to the flavor. And the quality of the smoke, they're not comparable. All right, so that would have concluded this side-by-side comparison of Enso and regular hookah, but as I was editing, I noticed that I dwelled a little too much on the negatives of the Enso, and my personal frustration with Enso, that was mostly, I think, due to the fact that I have really high expectations. I have this kind of mindset that I want to get the best possible hookah session at any cost. And that doesn't really reflect an average end user, I would say, because most people probably have more of a mindset of a kind like get a pretty decent hookah session at minimum hassle. So an average user who's not like a hookah master or like a long-time hookah enthusiast, he probably wouldn't even notice some of the differences that I mentioned and the decrease in the quality that I was talking about. On the other hand, it's also possible that for some people, they don't care that much about like getting the highest possible quality out of the hookah, and hookah for them is just a way to get flavored nicotine. And for those people, I think Enso is pretty much a perfect option. Now let's jump into some fixes that can address the issues that I mentioned in this video and that can help to make your Enso session much better. My first issue with Enso was a really tight draw. And for that, there's a very good explanation why they had to implement that. Basically, if the draw was made normal, like wider, like in the hookahs that we're used to, it would mean that too much smoke, too much heat is getting moved per unit of time through the heating compartment. And that would pretty much lead to Enso getting really cold after just a couple of consecutive puffs. So basically your hookah just wouldn't be able to keep up the heat as well as you would expect it to. However, there's one trick that you can use to make the draw a little smoother, and that is on this lid, you will have a little silicone thing. What you need to do is once you get it, you take it out and it gives a little more like air space for the air to travel through, and it doesn't really mess that much with the overall design and engineering of this hookah, but it helps just a tiny bit, because there are like more extreme things that people have done, and I've seen like people talk about it. For example, some just smoke without the lid, or some, for example, take out this purge valve, they kind of remove it, and that way obviously the draw is much more open because the air is coming from here and from the actual down stem. But those are, I would say, more extreme solutions, and they have a lot of drawbacks. It actually messes with your session. The second issue, much more important one in my opinion, was this weird aftertaste, right? And after some research, I figured out that the reason for that is when you just start up the Enso, when it's about to heat up, you're gonna hear a little bit of a hissing sound, like something is frying. And that's indeed what's happening inside the hookah. Basically, the syrup that is in your tobacco frying inside this heating compartment, inside this little bowl that they provide. And that obviously leads to unpleasant kind of aftertaste, because instead of gently evaporating like in a regular hookah, it just burns. And I was wondering as to the reasons for that, and I could think of two. The first might be because unlike a regular hookah, here the heating is happening from all the sides of the bowl, and it's to some extent as if your HMD was touching your tobacco from all the sides. The second reason, it might be in a regular hookah, when that happens a little bit, when there's a little burning, the taste of the actual charcoal can overshadow it. And I did make like a little experiment to kind of verify that. So what I did, I took the same tobacco that I used for testing. I used a paper towel to dry it as much as possible, and then I smoked it, and the aftertaste was much less significant. It was almost gone. But I mean, the obvious drawback there is the taste, the actual like taste of the mix is also much less intense. I also want to briefly mention another weird tendency of Enso. Basically, when you smoke it and if you lift the lid up, you'll notice that there's a bit of a like condensation gathering on the top of the lid. And the reason is obvious. It's like the syrup, the liquid that you have inside your tobacco, it's getting evaporated. And since the heating here is not from the top, like in regular hookah, but from like bottom and from the sides, the hot air kind of comes up and then it cools down around the lid and turns into liquid, obviously. And I don't know to what extent it actually affects the smoking, but I don't think it's something that should be happening, ideally. And before I kind of sum things up here and go to conclusions, I just want to briefly mention another important point that some people consider is kind of the health effects. And here the idea is that you make the smoking process a little less harmful by taking out the charcoal and using the electric heating element. Because the charcoal is one of the worst probably parts of hookah. It creates a lot of CO2. It has charcoal, so they still, even if they say they're like supernatural and like everything is cool about them, they probably still use some chemicals in the production process. But by removing the charcoal, you can make it a little less harmful. So to quickly kind of circle back to the beginning, the 4 points that we talked about when comparing the electric hookah, this specifically the Enso and regular hookahs, were the design, the kind of the convenience of use, the actual quality of the smoking session, and some health considerations. And the results were that for design and overall aesthetics, I think they're just equal. They're a little different in their own style, but they're both like, Enso is pretty beautiful, it looks cool. And regular hookah, obviously, we all love how they look. For the convenience, the ease of use, the preparation, Enso easily takes the spot here. It's much easier, much faster, much less hassle. If only it smoked great as well. Then it would be like a killer, I guess. But for the quality of the actual smoke, for the flavor, for all the other like aspects of the session, Enso is not as good as regular hookah. It's giving less, I guess, less complex flavor. It's lacking a little bit in the overall like depth and volume of the flavor. And it has a bit of that weird aftertaste that I mentioned, but the kind of side note here is that it might not be that crucial to a lot of the potential end users, because not everyone is like super obsessed with like the super perfect ultimate quality hookah. A lot of people just want kind of flavored nicotine, which is totally fine. For them, I think it's a wonderful thing that just removes this like extra hustle of taking care of the regular hookah, and that's a good product for them. And lastly, the few words about the health considerations. Here, as I mentioned, in theory, Enso should be less harmful than a regular hookah by removing the charcoal and all the negative effects of the charcoal. With that being said, thank you all for watching, and please let me know in the comments what kind of videos do you want to see next. It can be anything like product reviews, it can be hookah history videos, it can be tutorials, it can be maybe some interviews. And thank you for the support, and see you next time.